Hi guys, welcome back to another Quickfire review. A familiar face with us this time. It is my co-host of the D3D4 Football Podcast, Ed Walker. As you know, he's a suffering this season, or half suffering Burton fan, but the second half of the season has been pretty joyful actually. So let's jump in and Ed, tell us performance against expectations.
That's difficult because they've had two sets of expectations really this season, haven't they? I suppose from a Burton perspective at the start of the season, the hope was that they could cope with what was seen as a new era under Jay Buxton having left under Clough. That lasted long. But I think the expectation externally was around them potentially being dragged into a relegation battle, which people weren't very keen on at the time. But, they were right. They got dragged into this, so they were performing against that. Then to the second half of the season under Jimmy Hasselbank and Dino Marmria, I think very few, if any, really thought they were going to get out of the mess they were in. But they have, so they massively surpassed expectations in the second half of the season, having probably matched it in the first half, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one thought they would stay up. But if you looked at this season as a whole, who's been your best player, do you believe?
This is tricky because, as I say, it's really been the case. There's been two separate teams, really, the first half and second. I don't think he'll actually end up winning player of the season, but I would probably go Kane Hemmings. I think he's been one of the more consistent people across the whole season.
Yeah.
And it's difficult when you're a number 9 in the set of Burton have. There's often a lot of games where you could just completely go out of it. You end up with situations where you haven't played very direct with your back to goal. You're not allowed to get into the game very much, which is not really his game. He's more of a poacher, someone who wants to play on the last man, look to get in behind. He's got 13 goals this season still. And if he gets one more, he has the most league goals to Burton in a single season, I think, since 12-13. It's been a long,
very
long time.
Impressive campaign considering he spent a lot of that bottom of the table, wasn't it?
Definitely. Been a long time since we've had someone hit those kind of numbers, and he's still delivers the goals. He's delivered goals everywhere he's been. And I think there were some doubts about something at the start of the season, but he's proved his worth to the club, no doubt.
Absolutely. Is there a player that surprised you, good or bad?
I'll go with the goalkeepers. I think we had Kieran O'Hara signing permanently, having been released from Manchester United in the summer. And I think the general consensus amongst a lot of people was that he was a level ahead of Ben Garrett in terms of O'Hara being a much more promising player. Decent distribution was his feet, looked really good in last season. And he started this one and was really underperforming. And since Jimmy Hasselbank and Dino Marmria come in, he's not got a minute. Ben Garrett's been put ahead of him. And I guess it's a case really where we've found that Garrett is probably actually the better goalkeeper than O'Hara. Just a more reliable presence. He's gone from being a keeper who looked quite frail with 1-1 to someone who's being really confident coming out of his box to close down opponents. So,
which Crew fans would probably not be that... they might be a bit shocked about that because I don't think they thought he would find that consistent level.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons they left Crew, wasn't it? That they felt his development kind of stagnated in his time there. And, I don't know if he'll ever see him play above League One level in the future, but he's a good, reliable presence having goal at the moment.
Who's your best signing?
I think I'll go Hayden Carter. First man in through the door in the January window, signed on loan from Blackburn Rovers. We absolutely love him. He's just got everything about him. I kind of, to be honest, wonder if there might be a Premier League player in there. If his development is handled right at Blackburn Rovers, I really think they should be using him next season, especially given they seem to have no centre-backs at the minute at Blackburn Rovers anyway. But he's been terrific, reads the game so well. Not the most physically dominant, quite a slender build to him still at the minute. Could certainly stock up in terms of his size. But he reads the game so well, really intelligent with his touches. You get some centre-backs who latch onto loose balls and will just clear it upfield. He wants to take control of the ball, distribute it out to the others in the team. And his set-piece threat as well has been fantastic. We are a team that's been scoring set pieces a ton of minutes and throws, corners, free kicks. He's always someone who provides a great threat in the air to get onto the end of those crosses.
Indeed. What opposition player has impressed you the most?
I don't want to say Marcus Harness, but I think I might.
You sure it's not? Sure it's not Oxford's right back, Mr. Long. Had a good game against you.
That game's not important. No one talks about that game. There's no manager at the time. You can't have that. No,
that's a shame. That's a shame.
No, I think maybe look at Harness with the hat trick in the first half of the season. That particularly hurts because he came through the youth system. To see him come back to the club for the first time, I think, since he left and do that. I also think at Lincoln, I love Anthony Scully. At Lincoln, I think he's a terrific winger. That whole front line at Lincoln is great, and I feel like Scully is still going under the radar a bit because of the others that are in the team with him. I think he's a wonderful player out on that right-hand side, really dangerous, especially against a fullback who's perhaps not fully confident with their position, or if you get caught up field against Scully, you're in big, big trouble.
Yeah, no, he's very impressive. Scored an early goal, actually, in the game against Oxford I think on Sky. Yeah, impressive. What about the most impressive opposition you faced?
Lincoln. It's definitely Lincoln. I am not putting Oxford in that. You can have. I know you've had your 5-1, but the 5-1 that actually really impressed me was Lincoln's. I remember being terrified at that game. It was on Boxing Day, and Burton were lining up with a back four that were all 32 years old against that Lincoln front line. That I was pretty sure they were top at the time and the distance clear at the time and absolutely flying. And you always kind of felt it was going to be a case of this is going to be a heavy scoreline. I think they were 2-0 up within 10 minutes and just completely ran ragged that day. It was
what about
lovely side.
Yeah, they are indeed. What about the worst team that you've seen?
It's difficult because I've not watched every Burton game live this season, and the ones I've watched, I've not really seen a team that's been that bad. The actual worst performance I've seen against Burton this season was Crewe, which is a bit weird to say because they've been all right this season, but in that game at Gresty Road, they were terrible. They were absolutely terrible in that first half, gifting 3 goals to Burton. It was probably the most comfortable win they've had all season. So I think I'd probably have to go with Crewe for the worst one I've seen. I don't know, over the course of the whole season, Crewe haven't been a bad side at all, but in that game at Gresty Road, they were terrible, really poor.
What about your most used formation, or perhaps the one you'd like to see them use going forward?
4-2-3-1 has been most used under both Buxton and Hasselbank. I think Hasselbank's used it pretty much exclusively. I think Buxton had a bit of experimentation with a sort of 4-3-3 or a 4-1-4-1, but it's been mostly 4-2-3-1 without really looking to make use of the wingers kind of playing as auxiliary wing backs when out of possession and looking to break forward on the counter with the striker and the attacking midfielder, which has sometimes been a more technical player like Joe Powell, and recently it's been someone like Ryan Edwards, a much more energetic box-to-box presence that can lead a press from the front.
What about your worst moment of the season?
Trying to pick one. It's from the first half of the season, obviously.
You always worry when you ask that question, the person goes, God, there's so many to choose from.
There generally are. There were so many. I could go with the 5-1s, but I don't know. I go a bit earlier than that to 2 moments in November. The first one being the FA Cup first round tie against Barnet at the Hive. They were beaten 1-0 by a team that had 10 men for about an hour. And Barnet in the National League this season have been awful. Absolutely
dreadful.
Awful. To get beaten by them in that to a side 2 divisions below was really bad. But in terms of a League One, the same month, I think it was a couple of weeks later, the 3-1 defeat at home to Northampton. That game where they were playing against a side, I think it was a team just above them, really important down the bottom of the table. They were 1-0 down within 90 seconds. Never looked like being in it at all. I don't know if you remember the pod. I was actually late to that one when we recorded it the day after because I was just
very convenient.
I just did. I wanted the season over at that point. That was the low point. That was really the point for me where I felt, this isn't working under Buxton. Needs to be changed. That was the point for me where I felt.
You got your wish, and I'd ask you now the best moment of the season.
Best moment, the winning run. So you sort of a 6-game period. It's the longest winning run Burton have ever had in the Football League, 6 consecutive wins. The actual record before that was 4. So they broke that on the Tuesday beforehand with a win at Wimbledon at Plough Lane. Then go to the Crewe game, win 3-0 at Gresty Road, 6 consecutive wins. It's quite incredible that he's never did that in the first spell. They never won that many games. I think they won 4 in a row during his first spell. Never won 6, and this is a team that was rock bottom and has completely turned it around. So I'd say that period there, those few games, that 6 wins in a row was probably the highlight, but there's been so many positives since the turn of January. Yeah,
it's going to be exciting next season for sure. Before we think ahead to next season, I'd say, what have you missed most about attending matches in person?
Oh, everything. Every single thing about it. It's just not the same, is it? I've been listening to the others doing this as well. It's just not the same saying you're on iFollow. We think about matches and you look back on games you've been on in the past and you can think about all the memories you've had there. I was there.
It's hard to remember iFollow matches, isn't it?
It is. And then you think about, there's been some moments where it's like you've had late winners and it's like, oh, where were you for that late winner? I was watching it on my laptop. It's just not the same thing, is it? It's just not the same drama as being there in person, I think.
No, you're much better off going to see the second best team in yellow in person, Ed, week in, week out. I've just dusted off the best team in yellow.
I have never been to the Cassan, so I don't know what you're on about there. We'll have this debate the gears.
Well, we won't subject people to this one again. Earlier, I know, realistic expectations for next season?
Oh, It depends on the window. I think most people would say that, really, to get around it. Replacing the loans, which are going to go back, it'd be nice if they can reclaim them, but I think they'll probably move on. It'd be nice to see them continue what they've been doing, bringing in players of the calibre and age of people like Johnny Smith, Tom Hamer, Terry Taylor, building together a relatively young side that can look towards the future. So potentially from there, I think the priority for me at this stage is make 2021 a thing of the past. Don't find ourselves.
Everyone would agree with you on that for one reason or another.
Don't find ourselves down the bottom of the table around Christmas time. Stay out of the relegation battle. If we're around the middle of the table, potentially pushing towards the playoffs, doing something like a Gillingham or an Atkinson have done this season, I'm cool with that. We can build from there. I think for a lot of us as well, we'd like a full season of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank because we've not had that before. And if he carries what he's doing now into next season, you can guarantee someone's going to want to take him off us, and it'll probably go, which would be a shame. It'd be nice to have a full season of him to see what he's fully about.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final question then. Sum up your season in 3 words without swearing.
Jimmy Floyd returns.
Jimmy Floyd returns. There you go. I like that. That's solid. Good, solid. Right, Ed. Well, perfect. Thank you for joining me to talk about Burton's season in brief. Before you go, where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on my Twitter username, which is at Edward_W97, all lowercase. I talk a lot of the same things you do. We both cover D3, D4 quite well. I focus a bit more on the League 2 side. So been very invested in this season so far, which is going right down to the wire, pretty much at the top and the bottom. I think we're both quite excited about the upcoming Essex derby, aren't we, on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I don't ever think
a lot of fun.
Been excited to watch Colchester or Southend
very
much
weird,
this season.
But it could be a really important one, although I think Colchester are playing Walsall on Saturday, so that could be equally important as well.
Indeed.
That'll be very fun to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you for tuning in to watch these. There's plenty of them on our channel. Go and have a look for yourselves. We'll be pumping out loads more of them in the coming week or two. And as seasons become clearly over, then I'll grab people and get them on to talk about theirs. Obviously, the sides that have got something to play for still, they'll have to wait a little bit longer for yours. But thanks for watching and take care, everyone.